Hello and welcome to this episode, and in this episode we would like to write another program, and in this program we are going to prompt the user to enter two numbers. We are going to add these two numbers to one another and show the result back to the user. So the first thing that I want to do is that to give a title to my program so everyone who sees this program can understand what this program is doing, and I can add the title using comments. So we have discussed about comments, and you know that when we are using comments are being ignored by the compiler, and they are not going to affect the output of the program. Rather, they are additional information for anyone else who's reading the program so that they can understand what this program is about and additional details. So I'm going to add a title in here, title, adding two numbers. And now I'm ready to start writing my code. The first thing that I want to do is to include the appropriate header files for this program, because I will be using functions such as printf in this program. So the appropriate header file for this program is stdio.h, and I'm going to include that. Hash include stdio.h. And now it's time for me to write my main function. Let's go and write the main function, integer main void, and the starting block of the main function. Using this braces, we are starting the block of the main function. So here in the main function, we are going to write our program. And the first thing that we want to do is to introduce some variables. So variables are basically placeholders in memory that we can store as a value temporarily in the memory so that we can do some operation on that value. So to be able to add two numbers, we need two placeholders. That means two variables. And the type of the variables are going to be integer, because these are numbers, integer, num1, and the initial value of num1 is going to be 0, and then another placeholder in memory, num2, and the initial value is equal to 0. Now that we have the appropriate space and memory to be able to store some numbers, we are going to go and prompt the user to give us a few numbers. Not a few, but rather two numbers. So I'm going to create a prompt using printf. So I'm going to use printf, enter first number. And the number that is going to be entered by the user, I will read it using scanf function. Let's go and write our scanf function. Scanf, we are reading an integer value, $d, that means an integer value, and we will discuss about this later on. And the value that we have read, we are going to store it here in this variable, and the num1 variable. Now we are going to repeat the same process for the second number. I'm going to do a printf for the second number and use the scanf to read the number from the user and put it in the num2 variable in here. Now up to this point of the program, we have got the numbers from the user, and we have stored those numbers in variable num1 and variable num2. Now we need another placeholder so that we can store the result of adding these two numbers. And once again, we can create it the same way as we created these variables, and the name of this variable is going to be sum, because obviously it's storing the sum of two numbers, sum, and the value of this sum, where here we initially give the value of 0 to these numbers, and here we can directly initialize the value of sum to the result of num1 plus num2. So whatever value that was in here in num1, it's going to be added to num2, and the result is going to be stored here in the sum. Now we have the result of the program in the sum, and that is inside of the computer memory. How we want to show it to the user? Once again, we can use printf to show it to the user. So another printf statement in here, printf result is, and $d, and here sum. So here in this printf statement, result is going to be printed on the screen, and in here, instead of this part, the value of sum is going to be replaced instead of this part. And I will talk about this later on in the coming episodes and more details of why and how this part is going to be replaced. But basically, we will get the result on the screen. And that's it, our program is completed. Now we can close the main function and we can compile and run this program. So in the next episode, I'm going to write this program on my computer and run it and see the results. And in the coming episodes, I will go through each one of these lines of code and try to explain to you what is a variable, why do we use scanf, how do we use these %d, and what is the meaning of these things. Each and everything I will going to go and explain for you in the coming episodes. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the coming episodes.